This is the Frank Evans Center, Lake Mary Historical Museum. I'm just up here because it was adjacent to the police department. Hi.
How are you?
I'm excellent. How about you guys?
Good.
Is this a public building or is this not a public building?
Oh, sure it is.
Oh, okay.
It's indeed. I take it this is your first time here.
It is. Yeah, I was just over at the police station asking some questions, and not every city has a museum, but I was just in. I think I was in Apopka, and I happened to be there the day their museum was closed. But I think a museum about city history is very important. So
It sure is.
yeah.
We've actually been a museum since 2000-ish. Building's been here since 1926.
As the Chamber of Commerce since then?
It was, actually, the Chamber of Commerce is the oldest continuously operating chamber in the state. There are others that are older, but they had breaks in service and they were not continuously operating. So it's our claim to fame since 1922.
Okay, wow.
What else you got?
Well, what else do you have? I'm just a citizen journalist. I'm doing a piece on the city of Lake Mary, and so far I've had some great interactions, and that's what I'm looking for. So.
Great. Well, if you would like to spend a few minutes with me,
I would like.
Great. I can give you some basics, and then when Jane finishes her lunch, she's a great storyteller. So we have, between the two of us, we can give you like 3 or 4 days worth of time. We have lots of stories about Lake Mary. But let's start with the building. This building was built in 1926 by a gentleman whose name is Frank Evans, and his name is on the building outside. He came here when he was 3 in 1882 with his father, who was the first physician in Seminole County, which was not Seminole County in 1882, it was still Orange County. So we didn't become Seminole County until 1913.
So do you know how far Orange County stretched at that time?
No, wait. It was Mosquito County first.
Was it into Volusia also?
It was more southern
than
it was northern. I do not have the answer to that. Jane, do you know how far Orange County went? I'm sure you do.
Orange County pretty much took over most of central Florida, and little by little, like Brevard and Volusia and all those opted out or formed their own counties, but we didn't come out of Orange County until 1913.
See, we each have the same date. We're good.
And
That's good.
and that's when the Seminole County got founded. It's a small county. It was the last one out, but
Now, she's trying to steal your lunch. Go back to eating.
No, I just wanted to ask about how far it stretched. No, but I mean, Lake Mary is the youngest city in Seminole County.
Wait, say that again?
We're the youngest city in Seminole County. Although we've been here for a long time, we didn't become incorporated until 1973.
Really?
And there's only 7 cities in Seminole County. So we're the youngest, we're the baby. So in fact, next year we'll be
73? What was it before 73?
Unincorporated.
Huh.
So, we still have lots of parts of Lake Mary that are unincorporated. It's a much smaller square mileage than for the incorporated. That's all actually modern history, relatively speaking. We're approaching our 50th anniversary next year, so there's going to be big doings for the 50th. And the museum itself, the building is approaching its 100th anniversary in 26. So we've already started working on that.
So you guys are going to have a better party than the city for sure.
Well, we may. When we had our 90th, we actually had a lot of fun with the 90th because we were able to we invited, of course, we always invite anybody, we have an open house, but we went back and tried to find members of the original families, and we had tons and tons of people here that were part of the founding fathers that were here since the 1800s.
Wow.
So, the Evanses, the Schablins, they were imports from Sweden. We had the Pughs, the Humphreys, the Griffins, that all owned this part of Lake Mary. So the Evanses owned everything south of Lake Mary Boulevard and east. And they had all the property around the lake. And then the Humphreys owned the west side of Country Club Road. And then beyond that, what the Griffins had, where Griffin Park is, where the Winn-Dixie is, that was 47 acres of prime real estate that they held on to until finally the kids said, okay, they're all dead now. We can
time to get rich.
Yeah. So anyway.
So if I'm coming in here and I've only got time to see 2 things, what are the 2 things that I absolutely can't?
City-wise?
Well, in this museum.
Okay. Well, a couple of things that are really good. Actually, this is a fun case just because we're filling in space from the art exhibit. But these are all the way. This is a huge party, which is from, it's probably in the 50s. Frank Evans.
1942.
Okay, so I was close. Frank Evans liked to honor the people that were the pioneers, and so he started in 1925 a night called Pioneer Nights. And you had to be 60 years old to get an invitation, and that was everywhere. Within like a 50-mile radius, he would send out invitations to people to come to the party. You could bring someone younger, but you had to be 60 to get an invitation. And so it started out, the first time they held it was before this building was built. That was in 1925, and it was held at the Ritz Theater, which 8 years later, Frank Evans bought out of Sanford. So Frank was everywhere.
Yeah, he was.
He did lots of stuff. So that went on until the late 50s. So that's a good thing. And they started out with 100 people the first time until these newspaper stories are like 500 people, 400 people. I mean, all the articles, and they list every single person who was here.
Wow.
So, which was really kind of cool. This is the kids. That was a real live rattle, and one of the kids got bit by that one. The other big thing that I think you should see is the quilt on the back of the stage. I mean, there's so many things that I hate to just like isolate it out. That quilt was a fundraiser, and they sent the pieces out to people for their signatures. And then it came back, and the Ladies Guild embroidered all the names over it. So it was a nickel for them to put their signature on it, and then it got signed in. Dead center is Calvin Coolidge. And it was used as a fundraiser. It was an auction off for the First Presbyterian Church.
Not many people know, but Calvin Coolidge was one of our greatest presidents.
Sure. So that was from 1926. So those are 2 really big things. What Jane has just finished doing is we've got this.
Can we go up there?
Of course, yeah. You know, it's a good view from that. But what she's just finished doing is we've documented on our webpage that it's got every single name that's on there, and it's separated by rows and by name, so that if you're looking for someone who was here or who contributed to that in 1926, you can find it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
This document over here, that's the original cemetery plot of Lake Mary Cemetery, and it was from the late 1880s, and there's like, I think, 118 plots that are on there, and it's in incredibly bad condition, but that's how I got it. And so it's double glassed and everything. So, but if you go in and see all the names that are on there, they're all founding fathers of the city, so it's kind of cool. There are people here that we know about since the 1840s, 1850s, and then there was like 12 people here then, and then they got seriously. So when we incorporated, there was only 2,500 people in 1973. Wow. I mean, you figure that's 50 years ago.
Do you know how big it is now?
It's around 16,000.
Okay, for some reason I thought more, but...
Well, it's because it's busy during the day. There's so much business now, because we used to be just a simple little bedroom community of Orlando, and then when Disney came, we started to grow even more, and then everything started to urban sprawl.
Yeah, and I love Lake Mary.
It's a sweet little town. My mom came in 1888.
Wow.
1988. I said 1988.
Okay, much less impressive.
Yes. It's okay. And I moved here in 2000.
Okay.
So, but I had been here before that, before she bought, so I could help her, figure out what she wanted to get.
Yeah, I guess I can't even consider myself a first generation Floridian. I came down in 2004. I don't think that makes me anything.
No, just nice. You're a late bloomer is what makes you.
But my kids are first generation then.
So the other cases you can swing by to see, we've got the World War II memorabilia underneath the flag and the eagle, which my grandmother actually embroidered. And
she embroidered this right here?
And we figure it's somewhere around 1914-ish. And a friend of mine did the shadow box for it. It's really just beautiful.
It is beautiful.
So this is from World War II. And we have a little diorama from that. And then Beyond that, we have our police department, which when we incorporated in 1973, there was one police officer, which is in that case.
Wow.
And beyond that is the volunteer fire department case, which we were a volunteer fire department from 1956 till 1990. Thank you very much.
Oh, really?
Considering, now we're relatively big compared to when we incorporated, and it was all volunteer.
Wow.
So in fact, I'm just actually doing a scrapbook. I'm scanning it into our system, and it's all volunteer fire department stuff. And so this is kind of a cool memorabilia from the day. And then the next case is our first schoolhouse, which was built in 1885, and it was right here on the corner of Lake Mary Boulevard and Country Club. And then it was there until 1925 when it was torn down. And across the street from City Hall is where they put the new elementary school. And the way it looks now, it's still there with all the new clusters around it. As the city needed more space for school, it just added to the one that was built in 1925. So
I
that's
like
kinda
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Sure. So those are the highlights. That's the cost for building the first school was $449.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
That wouldn't even have covered my taxes this year.
That's a conversation at this point. But yeah, and this was City Hall for about 20 years, and so this is where they ran the city in these two little.
Wait, this was City Hall?
This building has been whatever the city needed to be, whenever it was. It was a church, it was a store, it was a antique store for a while where we refinished furniture. In the 60s, it was a pool hall for a little while.
So it's gone through being public property and private property?
Correct.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad the city bought it back. That was
Yeah.
wise.
Well, and that's actually a fun story. This is actually one of our best stories, this talk of a horse. Seriously.
You're telling great stories here. You should be proud.
Here we own this property all the way behind us and a little south that way and a little north that way and south. Well, there you go. So in order for her to sell the property to the city, the condition was that if her horse died, when her horse died, she was going to bury it on the property that was hers.
It was already
That's right. Well, okay.
The horse was already dead?
and buried.
Dead and buried. So if to buy it, they had to leave the horse's body there. So there's a plaque over at City Hall with Tonka the horse and his dates of his life and death.
Okay, so the horse isn't here.
It's
The horse is at
it's
City
in
Hall.
City Hall.
So was the horse exhumed from here and taken
No,
to City
it was
Hall?
always- she owned the property. So
Oh, it was
road
a much
from
larger
the-
property.
Much larger
Okay,
property.
okay.
So Tonka was able to get himself out of his own little pen and he'd wander around. He was kind of like the neighborhood dog. And so every now and then, however, he would wander over to the Lake Mary pub and grab a bucket of beer, which we have documented in newspaper articles.
Wow.
So yeah, he was there for, he'd get a little schnockering every now and then. In some part of his short life, he decided that his taste was going to become more sophisticated. He went from beer to rosé.
Oh.
And there is a story in the newspaper that one day he was wandering around town and he went to a party that was being held outside the fire department and got a little drunk on his rosé. He was so drunk he couldn't walk home. His owner had to tie him to a pole so he wouldn't get hurt on his way home. She didn't go to get him until the next day. So that's Tonka the horse story. And I'm sure every little town has a Tonka story. The details are different, but the fun stuff is, the quirky things are there.
Yeah.
So we have lots of fun things like that. And everybody was Zoom and who, it was a lot of intermarriage from family to family and stuff. So the granddaughter of the man who built the building is still on our board. And
Oh,
so
wow.
we get her talking and we're here for a while listening to her story. So she's wonderful for good stuff for us.
And I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Paula Smith.
Paula, it was great meeting you and
And
talking
your
to
name
you.
is
I prefer to remain anonymous. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just at the PD filing a complaint, so I'm
Okay.
not a big fan of retaliation. So.
okay. Well, see, I wouldn't have known that, so I wouldn't have cared where you. All right. So those are the stories. We'll come back again, and there's a lot more to them.
Yeah, no, you guys have been great, and this is all awesome history for sure. I wish more cities would have been so forward thinking.
Well, we're fortunate in that the city owns the building. They take care of the building. Anything we need, they update it Register of Historic Places, so it really can't be changed. But the city keeps up with everything for us, and then the Historic Society, we do all the planning, everything that's inside, we do. All the exhibits, and we do probably 6 or 8 exhibits a year, plus special events, and we did that on our own. So city takes care of the building, and we're nonprofit, and we do everything inside. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, you guys are doing yeoman's work here.
Thank you. And we've had this exhibit, the local artist exhibit. This is the 10th year. So yeah, we love that. Just put a call out to local artists, and this is what we got. It's beautiful.
Awesome. So everything in the center is local artists.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
How many people, on average, come in here every day?
Depends on the exhibit, to be honest with you. It depends on what the draw is. We probably have 25 to 30 people a week.
At least.
Okay.
So
The
we have
trends we had.
a lot more. We
20
just
people.
finished a 7-week exhibit with model trains that took up the whole floor. It was 28 by.
I really wish I had come in here then.
Yeah, our exhibit was on the stage. We had a train from 1919, which was functioning.
Wow.
And we had trains over here, we had trains over there, we had a trolley set up, which was really kind of cool. So that was, and because it was so big and so much to set it up, that we had that longer than most of our exhibits. So 7 weeks of that. We had the train clubs guys were here. So we had train masters here to talk to people when they come in. And train guys like to talk to train guys.
Yeah, they do.
They want to know, what year was that there, how it's going to be stored. Those are things that I couldn't tell because I'm not a trained person. So we didn't do it for years for a couple of reasons.
Thank you.
If you have any questions on anything, just.
I really appreciate that. You guys put a great face to the city, so.
We try. That's our job. Our job is to promote and preserve the history of the city of Lake Mary. So that's what we do. And the stories are the best part. Like I said, Jane's a much better storyteller.
And you should see the look on kids' faces when they come in and go, that's an adding machine. What's an adding machine?
And the
What's a
typewriter.
typewriter? Yeah.
And then Frank's camera up in the front. Frank was an avid photographer. The camera weighs between 17 and 18 pounds. And they go, well, where do you look? Well, where's the picture come out? Well, 6 or 7 weeks later, depending. But yeah, and so he was all over the place. Just as a side note, Frank, when he left here after he was in the Spanish-American War, he went up north for a while. And he found a chemist that he worked with, and they got a patent for the dye for khaki, which was used for military uniforms in World War I. Prior to that, we used to get all our stuff from Germany, but when you're at war,
Yeah.
so he made a bunch of money out of that. So that was something that he came back here, and that's when he really sort of developed the city of Lake Mary as much as he did.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
he was a really good guy. If somebody was struggling with their mortgage, he would help them pay it off. He wouldn't pay the taxes and rip it out from underneath them. So
Yeah.
he was a good, civic person.
Different, not that there aren't those kind of people still, but it's a different world for sure.
I mean, we have documentation back to when this was a land grant from the president to John Bentz, and he was the first person that owned all of this in 1875.
Wow.
And then we follow the abstract from buyer to seller to where it was appointed or set out. And so we have those documents on file here. Which, some of them we just discovered recently. Some of them we've had for a while in the back room, and now we're just getting to scanning them and getting them into a digital format so that when people want stuff, at some point we'll have a system set up that you can go and look for stuff and find what you need about certain parts. Right now I'm working on stuff for the fire department, But we have for small things for the police department, and as I said, we're getting ready to celebrate not only the 50th anniversary of Lake Mary, but then the 100th for this. So we've got a lot coming up.
So do you guys, do you publish your calendar on the city's page, or do you guys have your own page? It's probably on that card you just gave me, right?
Yeah, there's, we do also do all of our posts on Instagram and Facebook. Anytime we have a new event coming up, like after the artist exhibit is over at the end of September, mid-October, the Sanford College is coming. They're gonna do a Witches of Shakespeare play here for 2 weekends at the end of October. They did it last year as well. So they come in and they take over and do their lighting and sound, and the kids, you know, do all of their practices here, and it's just great. And then for 2 weekends we sell tickets and we give the money to the SSC Foundation for the students, because that helps any struggling student, that helps them to get their classes paid for. They need the money way more than we do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we do that, and we just set up, and the kids are great. They'll do anything.
For
you know.
pizza,
Yeah, I just save enough money for what we take in to throw a pizza party the last day for cleanup. That's it. So, but it's a great way for them to get, I think last year we gave them a check for like $800. So
Nice.
that,
Yeah, good on you
that
guys.
helps them, you know? So, but it's great. The kids are fun, and yeah. So all this goes away, and all this is now an audience, and that's a play, and things are decorated for Witches of Shakespeare, and then a week after that's over, that gets torn down, and we put up our Festival of Trees, which is our only fundraiser anymore. So that's for Christmas. So one goes down next week, one goes up. So
And it starts all over again.
yep.
This year we had a special, at the beginning of the year, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the Boy Scouts. So we had, this place was full of Boy Scout stuff
Wow.
and uniforms and stuff like that. 2 years ago, it was the Girl Scouts. They had their 100th anniversary. So, I mean, we tried to...
The Girl Scouts were around before the Boy Scouts, huh? Huh.
Only in Lake Mary.
Yeah.
And in Lake Mary they were.
Very progressive.
The Boy Scouts were established prior to the Girl Scouts being established. And that's where the Girl Scouts got the idea.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
And, but we had their celebration of their Central Florida chapter. They had a Central Florida chapter 2 years before the Boy Scouts did. So, but the organization itself, the Boy Scouts were established first.
Yep. And Julia got it from, when she was in England, she got it from, Boy Scouts were established there before they came here. So she...
Wow. Didn't know that either.
Yeah.
And I was a Boy Scout.
Well, we were lucky enough when before we were getting ready for the Girl Scout celebration, we took a day trip to Juliet Lowe's house in Savannah.
Oh wow.
So we
I love Savannah.
it was, well, we had a good time there. The house is gorgeous.
It's hard to set up for a big event when you don't really know.
Yeah, understanding the history is almost as important as telling somebody else about it.
So once you know, you can go and see it and see how it was done, and then that makes this part of it a lot easier.
And Jane's rule is that if we can't prove it, we don't say it.
No.
So I mean,
That's very wise.
What's happened over the course of time, because people tell stories, and then those people tell the stories to other people. And we do have an author that did a book called, Lake Mary Beginnings, and 50% or so of that information is not right. And
Because it's based on story.
correct.
And depending on what family told the story,
Yeah.
You'd be
That's
surprised
how
how
the
many
outlook
people think
goes,
they own
you know?
this or they own that, or this family owned that, and
no,
Jen will go, well, not quite, and here's the proof.
Wow.
And here's where it says, you know, so, yeah, it does, if I can't prove it, I won't say it.
We have fun stuff with different places, like what the Ritz Theater is having their 100th anniversary coming up. And guess where they came to get all their history? Because Frank Evans owned it in 1933, and his family and trust owned it until 1990. So, really? And everyone goes, really? Yes, Frank owned the Ritz. It was the Mullane Theater before it was the Ritz. And he changed it, and Frank changed it to the Ritz.
Yes,
So,
because they had to change the contract when
Stella died.
his wife passed away, and they had to change the contract, and at that point in time, he renamed it to the Ritz Theater.
So that
So,
was
and they didn't know that, they knew that it got changed somehow, but I actually had a copy of the sales contract, so there they go.
Wow.
So I just send everything, it's only good if you can share it, you know, with others. To
Yeah.
help them too. So, yeah, but, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. I really appreciate it.
Sure, anytime.
Thank you.
And again, any questions, just let us know.
All right. Thank you.
And that girl that was in from the, where was she from?
someplace else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's the Sanford historical thing.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to write an article for her by tomorrow. And I have time for
She put it on the book. I think she wrote, didn't she write it down in the book?
Yeah, look, this was from that bag thing. I opened that up and thought, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
How cool was that?
Yeah, all I had to do was send them the logo. You know what, it could be very
Okay, no, the closet stuff is really fun too.
Ladies, have a great day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Well, that was pretty freaking awesome. Leaving the Frank Evans Center, where those ladies were just very full of information.